time, I'd like to offer a moment of silence. We lost, since our last meeting, a gentleman that I thought a lot of, that did a lot for the village, and Dave Smithling. And if there's anybody else in the room that would like to mention somebody, please mention them now. Yes?
Ron Trillian, he was a
Ron Trillian.
for years.
Yes, thank you. Ron Trillian, absolutely. Moment of silence. Thank you. Okay. At this time, we'll take public comment. Whoever wishes to speak, just state your name and speak. Ms. Snorts?
Yes, I am Ann Norris, and I live on DeWitt Street, and it's coming upon fair season again. So I'm here to ask if you would consider doing a one-way street again on DeWitt Street to the fairground entrance. And I also brought Mona Carpenter with me, another neighbor. And we've been talking with a few of them, and if maybe even this year we could consider making a no parking from the Stewart Street to the entrance. If there's any thoughts on that.
Did we discuss that today? Something like that?
No, I'm doing yellow curving from the corner of Boswick all the way up to Jim Williams' house.
Okay.
They're talking up further.
For near the entrance to the fairgrounds, it gets very congested there. And when you have people parking there also, sometimes I can't even back out of the driveway.
We wouldn't have to do a public hearing or anything to do that. We could just do that temporarily for the fair, correct? Temporarily?
You can do it temporarily, sure.
Do the temporary one-way through
And
there.
with the police signs?
Yeah, you can do so.
I think that's a fair request. I think we should do it. I mean, you're going to take a few spaces away, no big deal, and it's probably going to help us from a safety standpoint.
I agree, I live there.
Okay.
All right, let's do it.
Where are you going from?
You have to
It's
motion
from
that
Stewart
Street
Street.
to the entrance to the fairgrounds.
A one-way?
Well,
one way all the way
to the
One
entrance.
way.
Most of the people that live on that street, people park in their yards and stuff. I don't see an issue with having no parking from Boswick Street to the entrance to the fairgrounds. I mean, you're just.
It would probably be easier than trying to police.
The section,
Yeah.
That makes it clear.
If we would go back to years ago, when I first moved there, there wasn't an issue. I believe it was, I wish I could remember how many years ago, I was home at lunchtime and it wasn't set up that way. Ever since then, it's been very chaotic. We have people that park on our lawn, but when you get people that are parking on the street but up against a single driveway, it does make it difficult to pull out of your driveway and see. But,
I would agree. You said people parking on your lawn?
That they want.
that we want, we kind of,
Right.
right.
Be allowed?
A lot of people do that,
Property,
Right.
yeah.
So, like from the sidewalk,
We'll say from the edge of the road.
You're gonna block the sidewalk.
Nobody parks on the sidewalk. Most of the people that park at our house.
Yeah, they know where to go.
There's a curve, so there's a curve built up, but after a certain point, there is none.
I just think.
Like people just pull up and just park and get out, and then we can't get out of the driveway.
I just say we do it from Boswick Street to the entrance to the fairgrounds. No
No
parking.
parking.
Fair.
In one way.
One way.
And one way.
One-way traffic.
That's what you say.
And we
Yeah,
will.
thank you very much.
One-way traffic for the village.
From Bostwick to the fairgrounds?
Correct.
Okay.
We as the DPW will take care of this.
One-way traffic
Uh-huh.
and no street parking.
Okay. I'm completely lost.
On DeWitt Street.
Okay, no street
Correct.
parking
Which-
and one way on DeWitt?
Correct.
And
Yes.
then no parking from Bostwick to the fairgrounds entrance?
Correct.
Same, just need a motion.
From start to
I'll
you have
make
a
a
comment?
motion.
date?
Well,
Oh, yeah.
I was just gonna mention, I mean, the one-way, I'd love to see the one-way go all the way up Summit. I haven't talked to any of my neighbors on Summit, but Summit is an absolute, I don't mind the parking part, but when they're parking on both sides, it's really a one-way street as it is.
We're not
I've
gonna
only been
allow
there
parking.
1 year.
We're not gonna allow parking on that street this year.
I just, yeah, like,
Are you?
There's always been parking up Seward.
right.
Fairview.
Like, and like I said, the parking, I don't mind the parking as a homeowner. I mean, they honor my stakes that I put out and they don't go past them on my yard, which is fine. But like,
Let me ask
it
another
makes for a hectic if you have two people, if one's coming this way and one's going that way.
Here's my question, Chief Austin, as a fire chief. Do we have a safety issue where you couldn't get a fire truck up through there?
I mean,
Probably not.
probably not. I mean, there's enough room because there is one lane. It's just one lane is really what it is. So, and they're parking on
So
both
should we
sides,
make
so.
no parking one side up, going up that street too? Versus
Or
going one
just make
way?
it one way all the way to where it comes back out on 26.
Right, for that we
Lit and Summit Street, one way.
I don't know if my neighbors are gonna hate me for that.
Too much
but-
of
With
Too much
Summit
of
on
that.
Fairview.
Well, you're here tonight and
Yeah,
I'm
because,
concerned of safety.
because you have people pulling down like Fairview, so they wouldn't be able to take a right to go into the fair if it was one way.
Good point.
Well, maybe we should make one-way parking then, or
Well, we
one-side
can-
parking.
We can do that corner, one side parking.
You're talking at Travis's.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the parking stops pretty much past my house is where it stops being an issue for the most part. It's around the corner and up to about just past my house. They don't go much far. That's too far for them to walk, so they find a spot that's closer. So,
How about you, can I empower the DPW superintendent and the police chief to make that
Yes.
work, please? Everybody okay with that? We'll
Can
make
we
it
have a
work.
motion and the dates, the specific dates, please?
Motion will be the fair week, which is, I need a motion for
15th through,
the 19th.
yes.
Through the 19th. And where are we doing DeWitt Street,
Well-
all the way up to Fairview?
We'll get with you tomorrow.
I don't know how we're going either.
Motion,
I'll make the motion.
second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay. Who made the motion?
I do.
Wait a minute, what are we motioning?
I'm
We're
sorry.
no parking on, no street parking on DeWitt Street,
Okay,
and one way
We're making this-
on DeWitt Street,
up to the entrance,
and then one side parking
parking after the entrance up to this.
after the
Okay,
entrance
all
of.
right.
So the motion has been made in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Do you have anything more?
No, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Public, Mr. Apple?
I just had one person that asked me, said years ago they used to have trash cans downtown. I know that people abuse the trash cans and took them away. And I said, that's what I told them. I said, people use them for their own personal trash. They're not gonna put trash cans downtown anymore, right?
Correct.
Oh, I was gonna question that too. We
Yes.
can't have just a few? You've
Well,
got
because you
moms.
have to pick up the trash cans, the stuff that is in there is not just trash.
Yeah.
I mean,
People
there's
give us
garbage
stuff and
bags,
that's what-
there's, I mean, it's,
But we have like people.
our guys keep the streets clean. If you go walk up and down, they do pick up trash that's there. So if it, in my opinion, if it becomes an issue, I will put trash cans back out, but we've even caught people pulling over the side of the road to the parking spot, taking trash out of their car, going to it and throwing it in there.
Yeah.
We had one by Baker's, and that was, you can just imagine, that was nasty. One on the other side by the Bateman, that was nasty from people coming out of the bars. So it was pretty bad. So we are monitoring the trash on the sidewalks and stuff. If there is any, my guys are picking it up. I think it's been pretty clean.
Sir?
Well, just, I've heard feedback where people are walking their dogs, they're picking that up, and there's really no place to
There is
put
at
that
the four
except the
corners,
four
there's
corners.
dogs, things, yeah.
So, will there be trash cans during Fair Week?
Fair Parade, usually Kraft puts them out.
And then we spend the next day picking up all day garbage.
Correct.
Because there won't be, we can't put them everywhere. And it's
Up to
pretty-
you guys, I'm just giving them my point.
I think you're picking it up the next day, and you do have the dog catch things out in periodic places, and if they're carrying their dog bags, they should be able to dispose of their dog waste.
Would it be possible to get more of those dog bins? Because those aren't big bins. There's, I mean, you're not putting a whole bag of trash in that. And just more random spots throughout, like some of your main, like East State and Shady and Park Ave, the ends on Park Ave.
Right, the original ones were on the grant.
I don't know what the cost of them are, but I'm just wondering.
But we know what the cost of the garbage bags are, which are ridiculous. But
Something to get stuff.
I can look into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, Mr. Okay.
Paul, I guess it's your day to be in the bucket. Actually, Redis's Corners, is there any part of your summer program to repave that 4 corners down there?
Meaning right by the DMV, where it's all sunk in. Yes.
Is that's part of the
Yes.
plan?
Yep.
And the last question is, I'm not asking for a friend, but it's a person that said, have Richard DeFone ask this question. So I'm going to ask it for him.
Saying Henry.
No, it's not Henry. It's a voter in the village. Redis's Corners. They asked me about a stoplight down there, and I told them it's up to the state to put a stoplight in down there. Am I wrong when I told them that?
I believe so. I'm not,
We
I
had
don't
a
know.
study done, and it.
Doesn't the state have to approve the
It's a state road.
stoplight?
They did not.
We
This came
did
up
a traffic
years ago,
study.
too,
Mhm.
back in my prior time as mayor, and I can remember I asked the question to Chief Young. The answer I got, which wasn't, was that 4-way stop is safer than stoplight. So, you know, I guess I defer that to Mr. Orland to see if he agrees with that statement. That's what Chief Young said, and I kind of left it at that.
Anyway, they asked me, and that was the answer I gave them, but they asked me to ask at the meeting.
There was a traffic study done just a few years ago, and they determined that with the River Street coming down, that hill, they didn't feel that the light would be safe there because of the hill coming down River Street. That's what the traffic study determined.
What if we could get our hands on that?
I believe we have it.
Okay. Would you take a look at that, Darryl, see what you think? Apparently it was requested by somebody.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll look at that, Mr. DeFone. I'd like to see this study myself. I would take the words of the expert, but that doesn't mean we can't disagree with them, and I don't know how far we'd get anyways. So, unless Mr. Burrows knows something that I wouldn't know.
I don't think the state would have any jurisdiction with us
I
putting it on.
I don't, but normally before you can make any significant changes like that, you do have to have a traffic study by a traffic engineer.
And then, so did they say in that traffic study, Wendy, we should not put a light up?
They did not recommend one. I want to tell you it was Chief Redenberg that
Did it
had the study ordered. He made it happen.
Alright.
So the papers might be over at the police department.
Thank you.
Sure.
It definitely would help down there because it's whoever's got the most courage to go first when it's 4 vehicles there. Never mind what
Which is most of the
DMV
time.
says it's going.
Which is most of the time.
Yeah.
Anything else, anybody? Anybody else? Okay, thank you. You all have the minutes of our 21st meeting of May. If there's no additions, deletions, or corrections recommended to our clerk, I will take a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
I will make a motion we accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye?
Opposed? Okay. At this time, Mr. Trillian, you audited the vouchers. If you could give us a report on those, and Jimmy.
There's, it's gonna take a couple minutes because there's 2 sets right now because of the end of our fiscal year and the start of the next one. So I'll go with the last of
last year. General fund, $62,333.17. Water fund, $24,736.88. Sewer fund, $10,033.35. And capital fund, $4,865.33. That was it for last year. Let's start this year. General fund, $168,978.68. Water fund, $51,422.99. Sewer fund, $43,032.66. All been audited. Tina just got a couple more to sign right after the meeting, and I make a motion we approve and pay them.
Do we need separate motions because we've got some that were encumbered, or can we do them all as one?
I think you can do all of them.
Okay, motion by Mr. Trillian.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Unfinished business, Recreation Committee. Gina, do you have anything you wish to say?
No.
I can tell you that registrations are still open. I believe they've hired employees. We've got a contract that's been developed. We budgeted, what did we budget, Wendy? 40. I'm assuming they probably hired employees based on that. I don't know what the board thinks, but I think that we should have that contract for that amount because he's hired for that. So we're going to have those employees whether we fall short or not. And that is just a determination of the way we're going to pay. Mr. Myers has already provided us with a certificate of insurance for listing us as an insured. So he's done his job. I talked with him yesterday, Gina. He says that you're going to review to make sure that there's a few that might be questioned whether they should be outside the village but registered in the village.
He said he was gonna do that.
Oh, he did?
Yes.
Okay. And then he's going to run it by you maybe? Is that what he told you? Okay. So other than that, we've had about 30-some sign up outside the village and town, and the rest are inside the village and town. And to make sure that, again, everybody understands why this is we and the town level are solely funding this. And so this year what we said was we would charge each child $375, which is $15 a day. I would like to ASAP get a letter out to all the town supervisors that would have kids that are coming to this for next year, so that we hopefully can get some money from them so that those families can participate for nothing. And in the meantime, we don't know but what maybe the county or the school or somebody will take this program over. If not, we need to be ready to get the monies from the others, or else those kids will have to be charged again. I'm hoping that's not the case, but if nobody has a problem, I'd like to get a generalized letter out in the next 30 days to the superintendents so that they can start planning or saying no to the coming year. Anybody else want to say anything on that?
The rec committee was what you asked me to put on with the members that Dan came off or.
Dan, yes, thank you. Dan Myers is, and Brian Finn has been appointed. Ed Murphy hasn't submitted a letter yet, but I'll talk with him. And I've got a few other names. If anybody has anybody they have in mind, please share it. I've got a few people that I can ask, and I'm sure we'll be able to fill the 2 positions that we're going to need. We're going to need to replace Ed Murphy. We replaced Jake Styria. That's it, right? Or do we need to replace?
Well, we'll need to replace Dan and.
That's right. So I do need 2 more.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. We replaced Jake Styria with
Yes.
that
With
Brian
Brian.
Murphy. Brian Finn. Got to call it looking with the right name. Okay. On the agenda is the administrator appointment. Mr. Burrows provided what apparently we would need to pass that as a local law.
Well, you've begun that topic, that conversation. And again, it's fairly common for villages to have a manager or administrator, fairly common, it's not required. There are 2 different pathways that municipalities go down. If you go down it, one is a more complex pathway where what happens is the village board, by local law, you appoint a commission. The commission studies it. The commission then comes up with a proposed legislation. That then goes through the process, again with the village board, and if you went down that pathway, it would be mandatory referendum, meaning the public would have to vote on it, and that difficult pathway, what that does is you as elected officials, you actually lose some of your legal power and authority and responsibilities, and that's given to a village manager administrator. From what I heard last month, that's not what you're looking at or considering. You're keeping everything open on the table, but what you're looking at is a simpler process where a village administrator or manager, and it means the same thing, that is somebody who actually helps the village board. And that still would be somebody who you'd have to go through the process, which is still a local law. And then that would be subject to permissive referendum. The powers, the duties that that person would have would not take away from your powers and duties. It would basically be able to assist you in many ways. The powers and duties would be ones that you could enumerate, you could modify, add to it, take away, etc. So what I did was just as a very general standpoint, I just gave you just a very simple local law that touches upon that. And again, no pride in authorship. If you decide to go down that pathway, fine, you can modify it any way you see fit so that you think it might work for you. And if you get to that point, then what happens is then you look to actually have a public hearing, go through that entire process. But it takes roughly a couple of months if you were to go down that path.
Now, when you say a permissive referendum, what you're saying is somebody has the right to go out and within
Petition.
30 days and get a petition.
Yeah,
before
so
they-
if you think of it, so as elected officials, you act in a number of ways. Simple ways are simple motion. Sometimes they're more complex, and we go the next level, which is a resolution, which is a little bit more unusual, and that's why we have a roll call vote. And that highest level that you go is by local law. And the local law, that's something that becomes effective when we file it with the Department of State. And obviously that's why the village clerk has so many responsibilities, and that's one of them. But with those local law, there are unique twists in the state law. Sometimes the local laws are a little bit unique, and so the state law and the municipal home rule laws as well. Before that local law becomes effective, you've got to let the public also have additional input. And this is one of them where it's permissive referendum. So if you go through that pathway and you come up with something that you think works, if anything, in your community, you adopt a local law. We say it's subject to permissive referendum, which means that we'll have to publish it in the local newspaper. We put it on the bulletin board and the website. And then within a 30-day window, the public has an opportunity to submit a formal petition against it. And if the petition is properly authenticated with the right number of persons, then what happens is, when it's filed with the village clerk within a 30-day window, if you get the right number of people that sign it, that requires a special election here in the village. Special election, the voters decide whether to go forward with that legislation or not. Go forward with it, then we file it after that. So there's a number of additional steps and safeguards are in place for something like this.
Okay. So I told everybody the reasons why last month that I thought I needed an administrator. And at this point in time, I can tell you in the last 30 days, we've had numerous things come up, but I'm not going to give any more of a statement on it. If the village board wants to pursue this, we will. If not, we will just move forward. So then that's going to be my statement at this point.
I don't know who wants to start, but I'll start. Doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
I'm in favor of an administrator. I think one's needed. I think this is a good starting point here. I don't know where we go from here tonight, but I think I can't speak for the other board members, but we'll let them speak for themselves. But since we just got this like yesterday,
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't had time to digest it and maybe tweak it some. I think it's a good starting point, very good starting point.
And I should point out too that, so my apologies for not giving that to you so you'd have enough time to review it. That's on me. But yeah, if it's something that you have any interest in or even just curious with, I mean, the next step would be take the time, go through it, modify it any which way you see fit. You think it might make sense to you, you interact with one another, and then if you get to the point, whether it's the next month or the month thereafter, whatever, if you get to a point where you think it makes sense, that's when you say, okay, this is the template that we'd like to begin with, and then you can go through that process at that time. So it's really at the earliest stages.
I'm for it.
Well, here's.
And see what the rest of the members say.
I think I've got a thought. Why don't everybody take this and study it? Rather than trying to.
We table this until
Our next meeting, we'll just take it and study it and determine if we want to head down that pathway. If we don't, if we do we revise it? And what method do we take as far as the public?
And I should point out too that document, I didn't look for, I didn't get specific input from anybody one way or another. I try to keep it as simple as possible. So you might look at it and say you have no interest in it at all, or you might look at it and say, gee, this is too difficult or too easy. It's kind of a blank slate for you to look at and see if something like that might work for the village. Anyway.
And in my brief looking at this, I can tell you a lot of this is referred already to me by Paul and sometimes other board members that when they're on top of things. So a lot of this is being done already, officially or not. So I think it would. My position, my point is, I think that it would help the village when something needs to happen quickly and somebody's not around. And I've seen it, and I can tell you, there's a lot different between now and 20 years ago. So let's take it and study it.
What do the rest of the board think about it? I mean, I opened my mouth, let's hear from three other members.
I also think it needs a little work. It's very basic, I think. I mean, I know last month we were talking, and I'm not going to, cut any slack here from anybody. We were talking about appointing Paul. My biggest question is, say we appoint Paul, and I'm going to put it right out there, what happens to that position? What happens to the DPW supervisor position?
Well, I mean, I haven't studied it, but this is not intended to usurp that or take that away. It's basically something in addition.
In addition.
On top of it. And like the one thing you'll see is if you go through that process and let's say you do create a village administrator, what that legislation does, as an example, says, well, wait a minute, all of a sudden if you need help and the administrator's gone for vacation or whatever, it lets you designate somebody else to step in that void at that time.
May I tell you, Lynn from Civil Service said when the meeting that we thought Paul was going to be appointed is that that position title, DPW superintendent, would be empty. He couldn't have two titles. I would have to take him out of that, put him in administrator, and then if we didn't have anybody, it just stayed empty.
That's basically something that we need to look at, I think. I mean, we need to look at all of that before we can actually make a decision.
Because like, what's the civil service?
If that's true.
Positions.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, this is at the ground floor. I've not gone down that pathway. I've not, but your civil services obviously take care of this in the county. They're following Section 75, so, but we could look at it.
So you're saying that based on what you know of Section 75, it could be done and you could cover both, or not what you know?
Well, I think if you want to create the position of the village administrator, if it's not a standalone position where it's bringing someone else in, if it's basically an additional title where you're creating additional responsibilities, then yeah, what it would probably do is it probably would potentially change the designation at civil service of a DPW superintendent, for instance. It might add on to that, but we've not gone that far because you're still at the ground floor, so I've not looked into that yet.
Well, I think we need to have an answer to that question, sir. Can you look into that?
But I can, sure, if you'd like me to.
I would like to know that. And anybody else? Okay. Mill Creek resolution. Paul, do you want to talk on the Mill Creek resolution?
As far as.
Is this, I'm assuming this is the issue that I have raised about the dredging of Mill Creek?
Yeah,
No?
what's,
I just need a, you
Support letter.
last month.
oh, that's for the county.
Yeah, last month you
grant.
approved the letter.
That's for the grant,
Okay, I think I just,
to work with the county. Get the grant for the.
that was in our
Mill
packet,
Creek.
right?
You did the letter of support, she's just asking for a resolution, so I just need a motion in a second, and then I will send this to her.
All right, we got a resolution here.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to look at this.
You did the letter of support last month.
All right, so I guess this is just a formality. to
Yeah. She just
Take a
asked-
motion to approve the resolution.
I'm all.
A second.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Doesn't look pretty.
Okay, one of the things that came up on the new business, the park. Last week we had a rally, and I was away, and they were on me every day to have the rally, which is fine. But in it, we do not have any real rules for the four corners. And so we have certain rules for the village park where you have to get approval, you have to get signed out. So I don't know what people's thoughts are on that moving forward. I think we have to be very careful how we go about letting that park out, because I think it's going to become more and more of a one issue, and we're going to need to be very careful. So kind of entertain any thoughts or ideas.
Mayor, I think the issue here was that it was between meetings, and more so than anything, that, it came up 2 weeks before the meeting, and we're stuck in the middle of a month, and how do we approve it or disapprove it?
Yeah, and I mentioned that to him, and I didn't like that answer, so.
But that's gonna happen. That's
Yes, it
gonna happen
is.
Probably at the end of the week.
Also, my hold harmless agreement only covers the Veterans Park.
Right.
So if somebody wanted to use the Lions Park, I need, I don't have anything for them to request to use
And
it.
actually, I don't think it just says Veterans Park, it just says Village Park.
Yeah, I said Veterans down a little further. But I think I forwarded it to Mr. Burrows to see if we could maybe incorporate that into here, if you guys wanted to let people use the Lions Park. I'm not sure how you feel.
Well, I think, Veterans Park is a recreational park, correct? That's the section that was given to us by the town, which is the playground, that section. It was stated in the deed that, when it was given to us, that it was gonna stay a recreational park. So should you as a board maybe have in here that it's just for recreation?
I mean, that's almost a question
I don't know.
for our attorney. What do you call
What do you do
recreation?
with a wedding or something like
The
that?
gal that was heading up this thing says we have a right to protest, so I mean,
It was a no.
Well, so yeah, there's a lot of, I'm shooting from the hip, a lot of layers to this. So as a starting point, if there's a desire for something that's organized to be performed, undertaken on village property, then what happens is, like with Veterans Memorial Park, I know enough about that to remember that when it was conveyed to the village, that there were strings attached. It was specific uses that were authorized. So if somebody, if someone from an organization, so to speak, if they want to use that park for some specific purpose, the first thing is it an authorized purpose or not? If it is not an authorized purpose, the answer is then that organization, that group cannot use it for that purpose. They can't do it, period. Because we aren't going to go out of our way to violate a restrictive covenant in a deed to the village. If it's just general village property that we own that's used for just general village purposes, we don't have those types of restrictions. So that means that whether it's a group or not, the starting point is, okay, it can be used. The next level is okay, well, what are the purposes? And we're content neutral from the standpoint that we don't take a position on one viewpoint or another, generally speaking, as long as it's not to try to incite a revolution or inflame the public, like trying to damage and destroy property. I mean, if we don't get involved with viewpoints on things. So that's the next level is okay, if someone wishes to use village property, and as long as they're not going to damage the property, and as long as they're not trying to create a problem or an uproar. When I say that, I mean that they're not promoting, okay, we're going to gather together because we want to storm the village office or something. We're content neutral. So then if we have that group, the next thing is well, if it's a group, then normally the answer is well, you can have a defense indemnification agreement. That really only helps us if they've got deep pockets in case there's a problem. So you typically say, well, we do allow it, but we want a certificate of insurance. We require them to go out and obtain, it's typically a general liability policy for that one day that lists the village as a certificate holder and also as an additional insurer. It protects us in case, and you'd have to make sure that we've got that in place, and so then they can use it. Now that's just from the standpoint that is the property available, and then can it be used by a group, and if it can be, can they meet the requirements for insurances? The next real level though is the nuts and bolts of how that happens. Now what I think a lot of times municipalities will do is they'll say, well, we require the advance notice, we consider it, and we issue a permit, consent to do it. A lot of times they'll have a village clerk or a town clerk will have that authority because a town board or a village board will adopt a resolution saying these are the rules that will apply, and they're going to be administered by either it's a village clerk or maybe it's a village administrator or something. So the application comes in. They come in on one day. They let the appropriate person know who they are, what they want to do. That person will look and make sure you've got the rules for your particular park or whatever. And if it fits within and they get the certificate of insurance, they can proceed. But if a village here, if we haven't done that, if what we do is we say, well, wait a minute, village property, the village board, and you're correct that as a village board, you're responsible for the village's real property and personal property. If you meet once a month, then they'd have to contact the village board in advance. You'd have to deliberate as a body and go through the process. So if you don't have a mechanism for that in the short run without a village administrator or without designating the village clerk as that person, then unfortunately you don't have a mechanism for saying yes. Now, that's with groups. If all of a sudden something's more spontaneous, it just, John Doe and a couple of his friends show up to do what they're going to do it. Now, again, against all of that, we defer to law enforcement, okay? Because people might have the best of intentions and wishes, but nevertheless, that's why we do have law enforcement. They have special education and training and certification. They make sure that the public is safe, participants are safe. So there's a lot of layers to all of that. And unfortunately, it's kind of dropped on you real quick without having a chance to think about it and make sure you've addressed it. But you can do it, and I think the starting point is I like the document that you've got. I think that's very good. I do think you might want to consider saying, okay, what properties are we looking at, and coming up with some rules, I'll call it rules of the road for individuals or groups to use that property from time to time, and consider how will they get permission to do this? Is it going to be a permit? And normally you'll have an administrator or a clerk that will go through it to make sure it's not a conflict. That well, on Tuesday the 12th, that's when the John Doe company is going to be down there. While we've already got another person who's set it aside, reserved it. So there's things you can do to look at that to make sure you don't run into those problems.
I do keep a calendar.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
But those are just some quick thoughts to keep in mind as you go through the process.
I think you'd have to have two, because
Two separate ones?
Because Veterans Park is different than the Four Corners.
Yeah.
And Monument Park, right?
In Monument Park.
Yeah, well, we don't allow anything at Monument Park.
I know.
You don't want?
We don't allow anything.
We allow it per. I went by there the other day and somebody had a bunch of picnic tables set up around the fountain and another.
Over
picnic
here?
table out- I assume it's at the church.
That was Sunday morning.
Oh, wow.
We did have the church there.
The church has done like ice cream social.
Yeah, it might have been something like that.
But as far as like a gathering, not really.
But I think as far as the Four Corners and Veterans Park are two separate. Yeah, I think.
Are you allowing stuff to happen at the Lions Park or like?
We have in the past.
Yeah.
There's really
Remember-
no need to do anything.
We've had,
Christmas stuff.
yeah, we had a
Thing that had just
vendor
trees.
there or something.
Lions
We
sold
just have
Christmas
some
trees
trees.
there.
Christmas trees. Yeah.
But that was a Lions Club selling them too, so.
But it's still.
Yeah, I get it.
Forever.
I get it.
Plus we had that gathering 2 weeks ago.
Right. Right, that we were not aware of. The 2 weeks ago one did not come to us.
Do we want to develop another one or have, kind of take a look at it as we move forward? Maybe we use this one as a template for a new one with what changes need to be made. We need to. And I'm thinking maybe Paul and Daryl could look at that from a village standpoint, because they have the most ideas.
I'm with Paul, that it probably needs to be two separate ones because there's a lot of activities that you can do at Veterans or you're not gonna do at Lions.
Would you two gentlemen be willing to recommend something to us at the next meeting?
Can I work with you too?
Yep, Wendy, you want to be involved?
Still,
And I think we should look back to see if there's something in writing that Jim said that.
There is, for Veterans Park.
Yeah.
There is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that kind of has to be incorporated and stuff, so that.
But it's
ahead of time.
pretty general. It's just,
and it's just over on that one
and
side.
it's just over on the one side. It's not the property that the village owns. Or the village did own.
Ditto.
Now we own the whole thing.
Town's
It used to
former
be-
property.
Right.
There's
But
code
as
stuff.
far as
and-
in between meetings, we're just gonna proceed like we have and decide as we can.
Yeah, I think that's what
We
we gotta
really
do.
can't go any different than that, right?
Yeah.
But really keep it that they have to get it approved.
Right.
Yeah, we're
And
gonna
not be
certainly suggest that
spontaneous.
it's gotta be,
That was just an exception, but.
you know, approved at the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got a resolution for the Fair Parade Detour. It's the same resolution we approve every year. I take a motion to approve that.
I'll make a motion, we approve that detour.
Second.
I second it.
All in favor?
I,
Opposed? Carried. Do we have Lowville Heights here? And that could be you? Okay. You have the floor.
Hello everyone, my name is David Kimmel and I got Susan Kimmel here with me. We are part owners of Lewis Apartments and owners of 2+4 companies. So we've been the management company for Lewis Apartments on Lowville Heights for at least 20 years now. We're before you today to kind of talk about some of the renovations that were going on at the properties, and then to ask for a couple of favors so that these renovations at both apartment complexes can happen. So a little background information. 2+4 was founded over 40 years ago by my grandfather. He built a lot of apartment complexes all over rural New York State, everywhere from, you know, Lowville and even Tupper Lake, all the way to Wellsville, New York, all the way down to the southern tier. So there's a lot of apartments that were built in the 70s and 80s using USDA rural development money. So it's been about, since these complexes were built, almost 40 years for Lewis, and this year's year 40 for Lowville Heights. And both complexes have not seen a significant recapitalization. They haven't had a significant capital infusion into the properties in that time period. So typically apartment complexes, a lot of the, you know, nuts and bolts of the apartment complex usually will reach end of life after 30 years. So a lot of times you'll have a new owner will come in after paying a mortgage, or, you know, the current owner will remortgage the property to do some upgrades. And that's kind of what we submitted application to HCR last year for, which we did submit to the village, so that should be in your files. So what we submitted the application for was to do numerous upgrades to the property, make it clean energy compatible, as well as to fix some of the accessibility issues, because again, Lowville Heights was built in 1985 and Lewis Apartments in 1989, so accessibility standards have changed quite a bit since that time frame. So total, this would be about a $14 million renovation of both complexes. It will combine both complexes into one apartment, which both properties have been functioning as one complex essentially since Lewis was built, as Lewis Apartments uses Lowville's office. And one of the main reasons why we're moving this year before the mortgage on Lewis Apartments is paid is that Lowville Heights is right now one payment away from paying off its mortgage, and Providence, who is the current owner of Lowville Heights, has expressed an interest to sell. They're based out of Rochester. This is not their territory or region, and it was just donated to them. So this was a chance that we saw to preserve the tenants at Lowville Heights, because once a property pays off its mortgage or gets sold, the tenants lose their rental subsidies, and they get about 5 years to move out before their rental subsidies run out. So it would be a significant loss of affordable rental units in the village. So we figured it'd be, make more sense to combine the apartments. And then working with Providence House, I was led to Snowbelt back when Jay Lynn was the executive director, and we decided to team up so that Lowville, both properties, they don't have, other than Joe McGuire, I believe, was local. They don't have any local ownership anymore. All the original partners have passed, moved their interests to their children or grandchildren. Sue and I have been buying out partnership interests because we are we're interested in preserving the housing, but there's only so much we can do on our own dime, which got us to go to New York State for some money. As part of it, both properties were initially built utilizing the Housing Development Fund Company, as well as they both received pilots. So we're kind of here to kind of go over some requests that we have of the board, just so we can maneuver through the actual sale of the properties, so that we can essentially purchase the properties back, as well as, some help and some that we need on the pilot payment, front. So, and then one last little bit of information is that we are pledging, so Sue and I, as owners of Lewis, we are pledging the money that we are due from the sale of Lewis Apartments to put it back into the apartment complex. So we're really just trying to focus on preserving both complexes for the next 50 years so that they can be set up to succeed and keep providing housing. So I'm going to pass it over to Sue to kind of go over the pilot and kind of that aspect of the discussion.
So currently Lowville Heights has a pilot payment in lieu of taxes in place, still current, that they are paying on. Lewis has actually expired 2 or 3 years ago, so they don't have a current pilot. When the pilot was initially granted to Lowville, part of the process is they formed a Housing Development Fund Company. And under New York State law, that allows the municipality then to grant a pilot to the, I know I'm not an attorney, I should say, I'm not an attorney, but I do know the process. So what happened at that time basically is you guys took on the role of supervising agency. You said, we will have supervisory rights, we can look at their books, you can remove the management agent if you don't like what the management company is doing. So what we have to do now that we're combining these is we have to dissolve the original HDFC, Housing Development Fund Company, and the original pilot. Then we have to form a new Housing Development Fund Company that incorporates both of the entities, both projects as one, and then negotiate a pilot. Now, what I've done is I've run through sit down. I do want to apologize that the pilot that our attorney drafted and the amount of the pilot was absolutely incorrect. Yes, we wrote it at 7,000 and that's absolutely incorrect. So this is a process, right? The resolutions have to be passed to form the development fund company, and then the next step is to negotiate the terms of the pilot. Under New York State real property law 581A, we wouldn't get assessed the same as a market rate apartment complex. The law recognizes the fact that we have a restriction on who we can rent to, because we have income restrictions, and that we have to make reserve deposits. So two things are going to happen. Either we're going to get assessed under 581A, or we're going to have a pilot. Right? Those are the only two options. The downside of 581A is it's based upon net operating income. So the village is going to see this in payments, right? We have 10 feet of snow. We had to truck all that off the property. So that means our net operating income for that year is way down. That means our assessment the next year will be way down. So a lot of villages go the pilot route because they want predictability. Right? You know exactly what you're going to get for the term of the pilot. So under 581A, the total tax would be $31,554. This is both properties combined. Okay? Right currently, what both properties have currently paid is $26,080. That's our current tax liability. The pilot we're proposing is in between, right? We're proposing $695 a unit or 10% of the shelter rent. Okay? Right now, your shelter rents are very low. That's something that HUD sets, and they say this is a typical rent and utility cost for someone in your community. So we try to position the pilot. The state of New York wants to say, hey, we're bringing $14 million into your community. What are you doing? What are you doing to help keep these affordable units in your community? So they're looking for us to say, we went to the village, we negotiated, we set the pilot, and it goes up. It doesn't, I'm not saying that this will change. We can do 5-year increments where it jumps up every 5 years. But it shows the state, the village is committed to the project. So that's kind of what we're proposing. We're not looking to walk away tonight with a pilot in hand. There are steps that have to be, the resolution. We have to go to the town board as well. So we'll be going to them next week to present the same to them because they are party to the pilot just like the village.
Next week or tomorrow? Next week.
Next week. Juneteenth.
Because of Juneteenth.
Juneteenth is a holiday tomorrow.
What about the county and the school tax?
So that's all within the pilot. So the exemption is for all the taxes.
Yeah, but you don't go to them either?
Nope, it's the town and the village, and then it's up to you to decide how the pilot gets dispersed
I need to go back to the statute, I haven't done it.
amongst the entities.
And I'm assuming there's rules for minimums and maximums to the other entities, or is there not?
There is not. That's purely between the entities that are receiving the taxes. What we've typically seen is they'll say, the school is 20% of a person's tax liability for the year, so they get 20% of the pilot. But it's really up to the village and the town.
So we determine the county, and the county and the school.
Correct. Mm-hmm. What shares they're getting of the pilot. So again, as I said, there's already a pilot in place for Lowville. Lewis's pilot expired
I want to say it was 2 or 3 years.
2023?
Yeah, it's on the tax roll this year,
Okay,
first time.
yeah.
And when we agree to a pilot, how long is it? Is it 40 years?
This is a 40-year pilot.
The Lowville Heights' pilot is a little bit unique that and I haven't seen a pilot in doing this for 10 years, where it was written for the life of the regulations on the property. So they wrote it for like as long as Lowville Heights was regulated by USDA or HCR or some government entity that the pilot would be in place.
So with the new pilot, would have to be 40 years also?
Yes.
Yes.
But again, we could do it a number of ways. We can say, okay, every 5 years there's a bump. We can say it's renegotiated after 20 years. You don't have to set the payment for the full 40 years. You can say it has to be renegotiated in 10 years. Then we have to come back to the board and renegotiate how much the payment is.
Well, what happens in a scenario, and I'm sure you've had this happen, when the two parties can't meet as far as what that should be?
So typically in that scenario, you default back to 581A. So that unfortunately that's the ruling property
So
law.
now we go with assessed value based on income.
Yes.
And that's something where every year we send the assessor what the books were for the previous year. So like I said, some years it might work out great, other years if the NOI is really down because we had some unforeseen expense like trucking snow off of properties, it would be down considerably, and so the assessment would be down as well.
Yeah.
And the pilot still affords you that same authority, right? You get to look at our books every year. And if you don't like what the management agent is doing, which is us, you have the right to remove the management agent as well.
Okay, can you help me understand this proposing again?
Yeah.
So you have 695 units.
$695 per unit.
Oh, $695
per unit, or 10% of the shelter rent, but in this case, the $695 is higher. That just protects the community if you know, something happened in the community and the shelter rents went way up, meaning what anybody else on the street could get for rent, then it would make us adjust to what the market is doing. But I have to tell you, the shelter rents we discovered when we talked to the local Section 8 hasn't changed since, I think she told me, 2012 or something.
So you're proposing the 27.8 for 40 years?
27.8 to start, right? And then we can do, typically, it's a 5-year bump. You know, it might go from 675 to 700 or 710 a unit. So, you know, bumps, we're not, you know, we're looking for as much predictability as you are. You know, we want the same thing. We want to know what this is going to look like. So I'm sensing that the 40 years is creating a little bit of agita. My recommendation would be the term would be for 40 years, but there would be a renegotiation. So you don't feel like you're
20
stuck.
years or whatever. So, I mean, I'm assuming that's something that is going to be negotiated between your attorney and our attorney. And then we're going to look at it and approve it or not approve it or whatever, right?
So our attorney has
Because my
drafted-
experience with pilots is like, no.
Yeah.
No.
Our attorney has
Less than that.
has drafted the resolutions for the board.
Yeah, I read that.
And has
It said
provided-
$7,000. I said, oh.
And has provided them, I believe.
I've received them.
Okay, we'll make sure that it's.
So we have 389 units in Lowville Heights. How many
No,
apartments?
40 between the two.
40 combined between the two. It's a total of 40 units.
Oh, 40 units.
'Cause it's gonna be
this is
treated-
the money,
You're
I'm
saying
sorry,
per
it's
unit.
380,
Yeah, I think
okay.
you're thinking it means
Yeah.
that many units and it's per unit, so per apartment.
So 40 total units.
Yes.
I believe it's 22 at Lowville Heights and 18 at Lewis Apartments.
So,
And the Lowville Heights is mostly elderly people, right?
But it's non-age restricted, so it's primarily 1 and 2 bedrooms. So what we see primarily in those apartments are a lot of seniors just because of the size of the apartments as well as the subsidy. because it does help some of the seniors that are living off of a pension or, you know, survivorship benefits and stuff like that. So that's why it's not, I do want to caution, it's not age restricted. So if someone was younger, they could move in, but you primarily see a lot of seniors, you know, as it is predominantly, I think actually it's 50-50 ones and twos. So 21 bedrooms, 22 bedrooms.
And then the Lewis Apartments is right around the corner from me, so I see like more of a younger people.
I think it's age too, like Lowville was built first, and we have a lot of people that have actually been tenants for a very long period of time.
That's a lot of times what we see in a lot of these apartments is a lot of people, we have another complex that's a little bit older in Oswego that some tenants have lived there for 35 years, 40 years, and it truly becomes their home. So that's where you can see sometimes there may be a little bit of a generational gap between the two.
But back to your point about the paperwork, like I'm not an attorney. So we were here tonight to give you the overview of the project, to give you an overview of the pilot, and then we'll pass on Mr. Burrows and Mr. Vaginellis, who is our attorney. They'll put their heads together.
And also the town's attorney, I assume.
Yeah.
Yes, and the town's attorney as well.
So
Yeah.
my thought is, I think we should just move forward and start the process.
And if there's any questions that the board has, I can leave some of my business cards. You know, feel free to reach out to me and, you know, just ask whatever questions you may have and I'll try to get some quick answers for you.
In a way, it's kind of good. I'm glad we came up and met you. We don't get into the field very often as owners, and so we don't always hear until we deliver something to the mayor and he says, about that detention pond out there. So feel free to, you know, reach out to us at any point, even 20 years down the road. If there's something going on at the project that you aren't happy about or that you're concerned about, please reach out. We do respond.
It's one of the things we pride on is that unlike a lot of other apartment complex developers and apartment developers, we like to become a member of the community. And whether, you know, during development you're dealing with us, we actually have a GC, a general contracting business. So we actually build and renovate our own apartments. So during construction you're dealing with us. And the same thing, you know, going forward with ownership and management, again, it's just us. And hopefully Sue for quite a long time, but you know, we don't see it as a, you know, hey, we're gonna, you know, dump a bunch of money, flip it, and leave the community. We see us as being a constructive member of the community. So even, you know, like the detention ponds or anything like that, even if you're reaching out to our site manager or our regional and you're not getting anywhere, do not hesitate to reach out to us, because I try to be very, very reachable. Sue, sometimes in the winter time it's a little hard to peg her down when she's in Florida, but you know, we try to be as, you know, approachable, reachable as we can, and try to answer as many questions as we can.
And to, you know, providing information to you, good information you share with the public, right? So the information that's getting out there. The funds are allocated, the funds have been committed, and we hope to begin construction this fall. We hope to start the renovations.
And that's on the Lowville apartments, right?
Yep, both of them.
Both.
And that's where I was saying, you know, in my explanation, a lot of times, unfortunately, the thought process behind such long regulatory periods is the government doesn't want, you know, developers to come flip an apartment complex for 5 years, get cheap money and leave. But unfortunately, you don't see the same kind of, again, cycle of remortgaging a property until a lot of times the property is not really that up to snuff. And the other problem, and this is more of a regulatory issue, putting my regulation nerd hat on, is the program was almost set up to fail. They set our reserve deposits back in for Lowville Heights, it would have been 1985, and Lewis Apartments 1989, with no way of escalating or raising that reserve deposit. So when you are projecting 1980s costs onto today's, especially, you know, that's without even considering what COVID insanity did to everyone's pricing. That's, you can kind of see where these properties were almost set up to fail when it comes to their appearances and stuff like that. And fortunately, New York State, when they are the regulating agency, has a completely different outlook onto these things. So they understand that these are in your community and they want them to look better. It's just getting them out from the old regime into the new regime. That should help those properties out.
Well, thank you. Thank you
Yes.
for considering it. And again, we'll go to the town next week, and then I'll make sure that Mr. Burrows has the information from John.
Thank you.
Great. It's okay with you, we're going to sneak out and start back to Syracuse. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good presentation.
So that's different than what was proposed.
Yeah, it was a good presentation. All right, moving along. IMA for River Area Councilman of Governments.
I think
That's Mickey.
All right.
You want to take the floor, Mick?
So basically the IMA is just, because we're adding Krogan and Greg,
Right.
those two communities, we have to basically add them into the IMA and then have that IMA approved to be re-signed. Yeah.
Make a motion that we approve it as a village, allowing you to sign it.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'll sign that too. What about next? Double play contract. Okay, you've got that contract, misplaced it again. There it is. And what was the budgeted amount, Wendy?
40,000.
Okay. And that figures out to about 109 kids. We may have more than that, we may have less than that, but I think Dan has hired staff based on that, so I
Yes.
think we're committed to that amount of money. So the first thing I'd like to do under number 3 is the village should pay 40,000 towards such programs. And then we got to determine, he's provided the insurance. He's going to, as we get started, he's going to need to be able to pay staff. So we need to determine up front how much we want to give him. I think in the past it's been 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, Wendy?
Yeah, we paid 1 and 2.
Just like this set here, okay. So I'm assuming, do we want to split it 20 and 20?
It was 38.1.
38-1? Thank you.
What was that?
38,100 was the total amount budgeted.
Yeah, we'll have to.
And so that would be $19,050 divided by 2.
40,000.
It was
Okay.
40,000 in the budget.
Yeah.
It was 40?
All right. Okay.
So you're saying?
You know, that formula that night was a little confusing.
20 for August and 20 for when? When? Can you, I can't do a check now
What do we normally
to
do?
pay? Well,
He's gonna
now
probably need
pay
something.
it this month, but
He's going to need something before his payroll in the middle of July, right?
okay, but
Can we do a resolution tonight to allow for Wendy to pay that, seeing how we're right here between now and then? Because he's going to need to meet payroll.
If your board approves a contract, you can. But again, I just,
it's going to be authorized to do
yeah,
these.
well, they're looking at authorizing to do more than that right now. But again, this is just a draft document. I didn't know what your parameters might be, so, I mean, it's fill in the blanks, but you might add to it or take away from it as well, so you're the boss when it comes to that.
What's the board feel? I think you have to give him operating capital if he's
Yeah.
going to.
No, definitely.
Yeah, give them half of it. We'll say now, I don't mean now as in like right in
Well, we don't
December
need
now,
him, he's probably got, he's starting July 7th.
and we don't meet until well after that.
We meet the 16th. I'm assuming his first payroll would probably be,
A week after that.
yeah. So, I mean, if you approve it, I can come in and we can sign a special check, or I don't know if waiting until July 16th is going to work for Mr. Myers. it's up to what the board, what they want to do.
I think Mr. Burrows was saying what's in the contract, right? Is that what you're saying? This is just like a generic contract.
Yeah.
He's asking me to.
We can pay him whenever you want.
Yeah.
Whenever we decide we want to pay.
Yes, I mean.
So we could say
you're-
the 1st of July.
Yeah, you're responsible for the village finances. And so
So
what
we-
happens is you authorize use of village finances for legitimate purposes. This is just a draft document I put together for your contract with Double Play. If you
So
use
if you
something
write
like this,
here-
you modify it, and then if you decide to make a payment in accordance with it, you can do that.
What Tony and I were just saying, the program starts July 7th. Maybe that's when he should receive his first check. Because now we know the program's underway. I don't see where he would have an issue before that. You, Gina?
No.
Okay. Does everybody agree with, we give
First payment.
$20,000 on July 1st?
And then approve the remaining.
Are you
now
going
for the
with this
next.
contract? That's what I need to.
I'll sign it. And then the program is going to run for 5 weeks. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is it running Fair Week? Yes. So it's going to be done the way I see it, August 8th. That would be 5
So
on a
we'd have to
Friday.
approve the second payment at the next meeting.
Usually the
No,
second
we can
payment.
do it right here in the contract, right?
Yeah,
now.
and then with the
It's in
date.
contract.
The
So
second-
the second 20,000 would be when?
Can I tell you that normally we didn't do the final payment until we received his final report? That was our old contract. The final payment
That
did
was the
come.
reason we did it, so we
Yes.
would get a final report
Yes.
from.
Okay, so instead of that saying by 2025, the date upon final report.
Right, I think that's good.
Yeah, I can make sure you've got, if you don't have that in Word, I can make sure you've got it.
So we're, as we look at number 3, here's what it says. The village shall pay $40,000 towards such programs. Such monies will be paid to Double Play as follows. $20,000 by July 1st, 2025, and $20,000 upon receipt of final report.
And the town pays for the directly.
The town has to,
The
they have
town
to.
pays their share, that's between.
And the way I understand it, Double Play pays the school, but did I understand, Gina, that the school is not, they said no charges this year, do you know? Could you find that out? Somewhere somebody told me they thought that was, you know, and I guess I have mixed emotions about even that anyways, but.
Can I ask? I need you guys to make a motion to authorize me to do a check for July 1st.
We're gonna do that right in a second, yes, Wendy. So I'll take a motion that we approve number 3 as written, that the first check will be July the 1st, and the second one upon receipt of final report. Motion?
Well, that's in the contract. Don't
Right.
you just want to make a motion to approve the
contract.
contract?
Yes,
As written.
as
As
written.
written.
So I'll take a motion to approve the
I will
contract.
make that motion.
I will second it.
All in favor?
Right?
And it's today, which is.
I need a motion to authorize me
Yep,
to
we're
make the
gonna
payment.
make that
July
motion here in
1st.
a
Okay.
second. We just wanted to accept the contract.
Got it.
And I need the locations that you're using for Double Play for number 2. You need to fill that in too.
Oh,
Bardo Road. Is it the school too, or? Or Krogan Swim Park, do we need their address?
No, I don't think he's transferring. Oh, yeah, you have Barlow Road.
What if we put this, the Bartle Road, the Lowville Academy, and the Krogan Village Park, because that's where the swimming is.
Wherever the locations are.
Okay. We should have
Suggestion.
All right.
No, I've written it up here if you want to use this.
Get that to you.
Okay.
Are we doing the swimming program again,
At Krogan.
Last I know, yes.
even though they haven't received their money?
I'm working with Wendy, I've had a discussion with her up in Plattsburgh, and she still owes me another phone call. She was gonna chase the governor for it. She was asking in favor of me, so I was asking in favor of her. Where's the? What? I don't even have many pages, I guess. I need just to sign the signature page.
I'm gonna type it up, Dan.
You're gonna retype it, I'll sign it in the morning?
Yeah.
Great.
Well, not tomorrow, Friday.
Whatever.
Yep. you got it.
I'll give you a Monday. How's that?
Okay.
Very good. I'm easy.
I don't have tomorrow.
Okay, we're gonna retype that.
And then we need a motion to authorize Wendy to cut a check.
So moved by you, Tony?
I will move.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Check will be cut for the first 20,000.
But you have to make a motion for that. It's already in the contract.
And
That's what you
then
want.
after the authorized to cut the check. It's not a utility.
There it is. Okay. At this point, we need to approve a letter of support for the Brownfield site inventory. We've all got a copy of that. I don't see any issues with that. That will assist the county, and I think probably that goes towards Superfund money, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll take a motion for that to be approved and signed.
I'll make that motion.
A second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Which brings us to correspondence. The first thing we've got is Lowville Academy 3rd grade. They want to have kickball in the park, which pretty much some of that happens every year. And I don't think we charge them $25. We just give them permission.
We don't charge for the parking lot, just
That's
electric.
right.
We only charge if they need electricity.
Electricity, yep. I'll take a motion to allow that to happen.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? We have a resignation or a retirement letter from Erin Gratch, and I guess my comment would be, she's going to be missed. I think Erin did her job, she did it well. She could back up what she did with facts. I think she would listen. I found her to be enjoyable when I had questions, and she was a pleasure to be around. So, and right now, we're looking for a replacement. We received our wonderful letter from Excelis for the next rate increase. Proposed rate increase. It's half a dozen of one and six of the other. I mean, we can like it or not. There's only one other carrier out there, and that's United Healthcare. And I think that
You want Blue Cross Blue Shield?
I don't know what the board thinks, what the employees think. It's not a happy situation, but I think we've got to do it. No. So I'll take a motion to either say yes or no.
We don't need, we can't, we
No,
don't
we
have the
can't.
ability to approve it.
Yeah.
It's happening.
Well, we do.
It's proposed, but it will.
Yeah.
That's a forward one. We have a letter from Carolyn Schneider, and I think that's a code issue. I thought it was addressed before, so I'm going to ask Paul or Tim to refer that to Ward Daly to respond to her based on her concerns.
Can you explain it to me?
Yeah, it's a little bit.
I think she's
vague.
upset with stuff that's been laying around up front of her original complaint, but I don't know that there is anymore.
Who got the original complaint?
I think I did and forwarded it to Ward.
Oh, okay, because I know nothing about it.
I forwarded it to Ward and asked him to respond, and I'm assuming he has not responded.
Because I read the email and.
There was an email form, correct, Wendy, the first complaint we got? It was on the complaint form.
You sent it to me.
Yeah, it was on the complaint form.
Okay.
And I believe I forwarded it to Ward. If not,
No, the complaint form was the gentleman with the sign.
Right.
I don't know how this lady.
she sent an email and I forwarded it on. It was unsightly stuff laying out in front of people's houses.
A rural lab, right?
Yeah, and she lives in Brandon. Apparently she comes down here a lot to go to some kind of a
Cemetery.
cemetery. Yeah. The sign on State Street, from what I'm being told now, that it meets all code requirements, so
It's not there anymore.
it will be there again though.
Oh.
And he has events all summer. So we need to send a letter to the gentleman that issued the concern. I actually stopped and met with him, and he was very appreciative that I stopped. But at that time, I told him, the way I understood it, it didn't meet one of the three criteria, that the size was too big, But in talking further with Paul and what Ward says, it meets the criteria for the size also. So it's a valid sign.
The gentleman that has the sign does have to coordinate with codes to make sure that everything is good. I think they give him a temporary sign permit or something, is what Ward said.
So we need to check with Ward in the morning and find out what kind of correspondence we're going to send to Mr. Yancey. And I'd like the gentleman blind copy that made the concern.
Speaking of signs, I mean, there's a couple more out by the Y there too. Are they allowed?
Well, that's the
That would be
state.
DOT.
Okay.
Because it's, our sign we have to deal with because he put it inside the sidewalk. If he put it
Yeah,
outside the
there's another
sidewalk, it
one
would be a
there,
state
too.
issue.
And then the bigger sign. Why wouldn't that fall under the sign law?
I
In the
thought it
village,
does.
just like that other one, you know what I
It
mean?
does.
It's not on private
The
property.
way I
it's still in the
understand it,
village.
this came up once before because Mr. Yancey was putting his sign there. And because it's there in the roadway, it falls
Right
under
away
state
under
DOT. Yes. And I sent the state a certified letter back many years ago.
Yeah, I'm not picking anybody, I just noticed it because of that whole sign deal.
Right, that, the lavender sign and
Yeah, and there's
stuff,
another
that's-
little one there
yeah.
too, I don't know what that
So
was.
that's in DOT right away, so really,
Not
we don't
allowed.
want, yeah, it's not allowed, but it's gotta be enforced
By
through
them.
DOT.
We received today, and I guess, yes, it is in your packets, and I spoke with Jeremiah, his request for the Cream Cheese Festival, and Joe had to leave, I'm assuming maybe something came off of the fire department or what have you. I guess everybody wants it down street, and I guess based on if there's no safety concerns, what do we say? He said he would provide us with a certificate of insurance. He'll get that to us. I think that we make the motion based on receiving the certificate of insurance, that they move forward. I talked to him about a couple of safety issues that I was concerned about, that he's going to talk with others to take care of, and other than that, we had a quick conversation, but it was good, and he brought the letter in as I was here.
Yeah.
So,
I'll make a motion that we allow them to proceed.
as long as, with the understanding that we have the certificate of insurance. Second,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion's carried. At this time, Mr. Burrows, do you have anything?
Nothing to report.
I have a few things. One of the things that I think we need to discuss is over where we have the pickleball and the village park. In May through September, I think we need to have so many spaces for 2-hour parking to allow for the people that want to use the park and the pickleball courts. Other than that, I mean, during the winter months, obviously, the parks aren't going to be used, so we shouldn't have any issues, but I think that our obligation first is to them, and then from there, the parking spaces that are allowed for other use would not be 2-hour parking. We have an agreement with, not with the county, but with the Legion, because they let us use so many parking spaces, we plow them out. So whatever the Legion wants to do there will be up to them. But I'm thinking that this has come up, and we need to accommodate our residents with a few spaces for parking for their events. That's my thought. I did discuss it with Paul. I haven't had a chance to discuss it with you. We'd have to have a public hearing, and we would have to create a law to create 2-hour parking in the spaces that we wanted to create. Yep. So with that in mind, I'm open for comments.
I have a question as far as that. Obviously, the outside of that curve is our responsibility. What about the inside of that curve? Is that
It's still ours.
is that all ours?
Yes.
Okay, because I didn't know what belonged to the hair salon.
Oh, across the road, that's theirs.
Yeah, behind the post office, the hair salon, inside that curve. Park out.
Yeah, that would be the hair salon.
That's the hair salon
Yes.
property. Okay, I didn't know if we could appropriate any of those parking spots.
No, we don't own them.
No, okay. That was my only
And as a
question.
matter of fact, probably the landowner should probably block that off if it's closed, because
But
something happens,
it's
it's our
currently up for
liability.
sale. The building's currently up for sale, but
Yeah, there's some issues.
what that means to us, I don't think that has anything to do with it, but
So does anybody have any thoughts on what I'm suggesting, or what I have been thinking about?
I think it's a good idea. I'll speak up.
Well-
So you've got, nowadays, we've got, we've always had 2 tennis courts. Now we've turned those from tennis courts, they're still a tennis court, but now they're a pickleball court. Pickleball has gotten huge.
Monday morning, there was people over there playing.
Yes. So I think being that Veterans Park is a recreational park, we should have dedicated parking spots for people to come play pickleball, to use Veterans Park.
Basketball.
I was there today,
Yes.
because Channel 7 was doing the thing on Music in the Park, and we had kids over there playing, and you would also, and with their parents, you've also got 6 or 7 picnic tables. What if somebody wants to have a picnic lunch there? You know, it's.
If you don't get there before 8 o'clock in the morning, you're not going to parking spot.
Nope. And I don't say that it's gotta be for the whole year. I say that it's during our summer months when the park can be used.
Yeah.
And after that, it's just like with the school here. We had a meeting with Superintendent Dunkel today, and Board Member Mr. Young, and I think we came up with the consensus that when there's not anything going on out here, they'll have the parking spaces. We're gonna provide them with a schedule. Wendy, I've sent you an email in the last few minutes of what goes on here, and we told them there's certain other things. We also talked about, in that situation, we're hoping we can group meetings so that they're the same night, so that, in other words, you have the cemetery association and somebody else that uses it. We're gonna talk with them and see if they can group those so that we're not having a meeting tonight, tomorrow night, and what have you. So there was good conversation, and we're gonna move forward with that. And we talked about a few other things. So that in itself, I think, is gonna work out. But if we could, Mr. Burrows, can we have a public hearing as quick as next month on this?
You're supposed to have the local law in place to set a public hearing.
So we're gonna need that for July. And the quickest we're gonna be able to have a public hearing will be August. Okay.
If I can just get the specifics of what.
Unless you want to do a special meeting.
I don't think so. I think we'll get the specs, we'll drop the specs, Paul, you and I, and we'll get them to Mr. Burrows in the morning, and we can have the specs in August.
I'll sign this
Are you taking Juneteenth off?
one. He has to.
We take Juneteenth off. No, I'm going to work tomorrow and then take
Well,
Friday off.
we can, all right. So we'll draw the specs
We'll
up.
get
We don't have to have them tomorrow.
We'll send it tomorrow.
We'll get those to you, Mr. Burrows. Yep. So that,
How many parking spots are you designating?
we'll talk about that. We'll email you.
Actually.
Do you trust, I'm thinking 6, 8 spots.
Gina, I was thinking all along the tennis courts, because obviously those,
Oh, you're
and I think there's
Because you have
5 there, probably.
5 or 6 there.
6.
And then just taking from, where the walkway is to go up to Veterans Park, just taking maybe 4 parking spots there and dedicating that.
4 would be good.
6.
But
But you're talking the ones next to the pickleball court, and then 4
4 from,
going along the park.
And today at noon, to be honest with you, there was 4 or 5 spaces still available there today. But then there's days when
That's
there's
because
not.
the seniors aren't there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because the students aren't.
Oh, okay.
Again,
so leave those,
can down
leave
the
those
road.
parking spaces by the tennis courts for people that want to do pickleball and whatnot.
There won't be people late for work. Okay, so Paul, we'll work on that. Let's see, I want to tell you that I had a grandson get bit last week by a dog. Wasn't serious. Eggs and markets. I got some suggestions from, is it Nicholas Astafant?
Nick.
And I don't know, we do not have any kind of a leash law per se, Attorney Burrows, but anything that I've been reading says you gotta keep your dog under control, and state ags, and talking with Tony, requires a certain leash. Should we do anything, or are we okay with what we have? And you're gonna say,
I haven't looked at what you do or don't have in place. I mean, if you want legislation for a leash law in the village, yeah, I can give you a copy.
I believe the state has.
We-
leash
I have
law.
a neighbor whose dog is very obedient, and he doesn't use a leash. He just
We do
walks
not,
around.
this dog wasn't very obedient, it was one of those little dogs. We per se, in reading the law that I read, we do not have a leash law per se. It's, the owner has to keep their dog under control when they're on the property. If they're off the property, or in a, I shouldn't say off the property, in a park, the way I read the law, we have a leash law, which is kind of, I don't know, skittish on the way I read it.
I thought New York State had a leash law.
So do I.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't looked it
I
up,
thought
but I
that
believe
too.
the state has a law.
The state has very generic provisions, but not going to be specific for what you're faced with, though.
We have a situation where we've got, my grandkids are out running all the time, and you've got walkers. I think if you remember a few years ago, Mr. Fail was out walking one of our police officers, and he got attacked. And that dog ended up in court, and judge made, had it euthanized. I can remember Judge King telling me once that if a dog ends up in front of his court, he will not move it to another town. It will be euthanized. And I asked him, why is that? And his remark was, because we're just passing a liability on to somebody else. So, which reminds me, I've got a personnel issue that I do want to have executive session for. Paul, do you have any update on the flood?
No.
Mitigation, okay?
No.
The engineers are working on cammering the village and scoping that out.
Actually, I talked to Matt this afternoon, and they've got most of their data. They've still got a couple guys doing a little bit more survey. Once they do gather all that data, he said it's 3 to 4 weeks to get all that stuff into the computer, and then draw up a plan and give us all this information. So I would say within 2 months we'll have a total complete.
Okay. We received an email from our attorney from Buffalo considering a personnel issue, and I made a phone call. I have not received a return phone call. Also, the state, I put a phone call in to the gentleman concerning the option of the railroad, and he has not returned my call. So I just wanted to bring the board up to speed on those. Any of our committees, do we have any reports from those? If not, I'm going to ask the chief if he's got a report that he wants. We've got his written report or his computer report. Is there anything else you want to add, chief?
Just that we're moving forward. We got our tasers and body cameras in. Today, 4 officers were trained to be instructors for taser. So
Right in this room?
Yep, right here. Actually, the past 2 days. Body worn camera training is next Tuesday. So I'm thinking by Thursday of next week we'll have new tasers, body cameras, and implemented, and they'll start wearing them.
I saw the sheriff at lunch today. He was asking how our body cameras were working, and I said I've heard nothing, so I'm assuming good, but we really haven't got them in place.
Give me a week.
Okay. And I witnessed the taser reports, and I would encourage people in the village to behave because they weren't doing too well with the tasers on.
It can be a little painful.
Especially with where they were hitting. Yeah, we're gonna get to her too. So you're all set, chief? Wendy?
Your report's in your packet.
Yep, thank you.
Can I just ask, are you asking Attorney Burroughs to do the leash law for next meeting? Or?
I wanted to just review it.
Okay.
So forward it to him. We may not do a thing, but I'm concerned with, luckily this dog was up on his, all his shots. And the bite was very minor.
Could
have been, yeah, well, the dog was small. I would have kicked a field goal with the dog.
Oh gosh, Dan, you're on camera.
Hey, the dog's gonna bite me, and I'm sorry. You can be mad at me or not. I'm gonna defend myself.
Pete is gonna be on the board.
Do you have anything more to talk about?
Yes, so like I said, I talked with Matt from Gymo today. Keller will be up at the water plant on July 7th, starting to do the test wells. Yep. And I just want to bring up again about brush pickup. It will be July 7th and 8th, no grass clippings. Brush, tree limbs, nothing longer than 4 foot. And we are going to meet and talk about moving forward what we're going to do with brush and debris pickup.
Paul and I have talked about this, and we want the community to understand. We want to be proactive about this, but the problem we run into is the minute our DPW picks something up, something more is out there, and if it's not picked up, they're upset. And our men have to do other things, and they have emergencies come up. They've got other village responsibilities. So what we're going to do is we're going to send a letter out in the near future, and we're going to explain everything in that letter. But from there, it will be on our website, and we will update it every year. Even if there's no updates, it'll say reviewed. And moving forward, who knows who will be in charge then? But that way, it will be on the website, because I'd like to see people start using that website more. It's very easy to get to, and it has everything on there that you could want to know about the village. And so that's where we're headed with that. And we're going to continue to pick up brush, but we're not going to do it, oh, I left my brush out today, they're going to pick it up tomorrow. We can't do that. We just can't do that anymore. We have 22 miles of street. And it's just not one of those things where Sam took me around and we rode around the village, and the stuff that he showed me that day would have taken a couple of days just to pick up, and the minute they pick it up, there's more out there. What we're asking people to do is be cognizant of it. Our refuge station is open 24/7, 7 days a week. We're cammering it, and we ask that people follow the rules to the best of their ability. I use it a lot, and it looks like it's working quite well right now. Unless I'm missing something. We've got a few people that use it all the time that enjoy using it. And there's people that can't use it because maybe they're elderly, and we understand that. Well, we're going to do the best we can to work with them, but we just cannot pick up every day. So, that being said,
So you're just gonna pick up certain,
there's going to be a schedule once a month, except for when we're doing spring up cleanup. That'll be pretty much that whole month.
Yes.
Or storm damage.
Or storm damage.
Storm
yes.
damage will be out there until everything's picked up.
Yeah.
I would like to see probably 2 days at the beginning of the month, 2 days at the end of the month. But
We're gonna
we're gonna work that all out. The issue that we have with the grass clippings, people take the time to mow their lawn, rake up their grass clippings, bring them out to the road. And some of them put them in barrels and everything else. Grass clippings are a pain to pick up. And
Also,
I think if you want to take care of your yard and do that, if you have grass clippings, you can take them down to the...
Also, Paul, we need to mention that we have people that are throwing shrubs and what that in the road.
Yes.
That is a safety issue. It's unacceptable, and you'll be issued a ticket. Please don't do that. Up on State Street, this last week, there was brush right on North State Street going up the hill.
Still there.
It's still there, and I don't know if we can pick it up and bill them. Maybe that's one of the things we're going to have to do, because it's kind of just like the lawn law. We've got some lawns right now that Paul's got to address, because over on Shady Ave, we got hayfield over there, and that's going to be addressed. So we're trying to do the best we can to keep the community looking nice, and we ask for everybody's assistance. It's our community. With that, does anybody else have anything they want to bring in front of this board?
Yeah, under capital future planning.
Yes.
There's a draft, everybody should have a copy of this draft resolution for what I talked about last month, the Smart Growth Community Planning and Zoning Grant. we are now going to partner with the village, or the town, I'm sorry, and the village on a co-application. I spoke with Lauren here the other day, and they actually upped it to $300,000 because of the two of us. She's got a couple of RFPs that have come in lower than that, significantly lower, so we shouldn't have an issue with that. We need to move on this next month, because the county will, I'm assuming the county will approve to go forward with it. At their meeting on July 1st, the town will approve to go forward next week on theirs, and then it's got to be in by July 31st. Probably won't be awarded, if awarded to us, about the end of the year. And then, of course, we're into next year. We will not have to come up with any funding at all until the work is done, completed.
About
10,000. So that's my report. And I also have something for executive session, some litigation issues with the village. So.
Okay. So I'll take, don't forget.
Mickey.
Speaking of that, Mickey, I've been watching.
Yeah, you're Mickey.
I've been watching you.
I'll keep it
You're always the
because I got
last.
at Krogan tonight. They moved the meeting.
You're always the last one on here. Do you want to be moved up some because you have other
Well,
meetings?
normally it's not an issue because I want to sit in on the meeting the whole time.
I know you do.
Anyways, so. just
Let's do it
tonight.
this time.
But you certainly can be asked to move up if you have other appointments that night, right?
Apologize.
Right, Mayor?
Yes. Well, always got, we can move them up on the agenda, I can just say, hey, can I go early? No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not a problem.
All
Go
right,
ahead,
thanks.
Nikki.
So the next RACOG board meeting is September 25th, and that'll be at 6 p.m. at Town of Wilma. The RACOG Economic Visioning Summit, RACOG approved to have the summit again next year, and we're looking at March, so we can have it at BOCES again and have the students do the lunches down there. So that's our goal for that. Student activity program, so we do have the RACOG student board that's still gonna move forward this next year. RACOG approved keeping that going. And I know Town of Watson's gonna maybe reach out to the RACOG student board to look over get some ideas for maybe park upgrades up there. So we're gonna use the RACOG student board as really if a community wants to run something by the youth and get ideas for a project, they can do that. Related to that, we are gonna have the civic service student activity program again next year for the students. So that's where we're trying to get students from the schools at 10, where we have one classroom day down at BOCES, and then we have a field trip day, usually in May. So the classroom's in October, the field trip's in May. We had 11 students this last year participate, and RACOG has also said that it will cover the lunches for the students again for next year. And then the wastewater operator training, again, there's really nothing too new there. The BOCES is continuing to look at that. Running that certification training in September for continuing education. We already talked about the RACOG membership, and other than that, the last thing is just RACOG did approve to continue looking at funding through Naturally Lewis. We talked about a RACOG or a regional economic growth and opportunities assessment study, and we might actually kind of modified that a little bit into more of like a strategic plan related to RACOG's mission, which is about, shared services and fiscal stability and things like that, and economic development. So we might look into something like that. So I'm working with Jennifer Harville in our office on that part of it. So other than that, that's what I have, unless you have any questions.
What did you say the meeting was, September 25th?
September 25th, and I will just mention too, that's one change. I know Wendy already got me the changes there, but in the bylaws and IMA, we did change those slightly, and that was so the mayor supervisor for any community is automatically a representative of RACOG. There is no.
I'm gonna surprise you, just remind me, I'll come to the meeting that night.
We're reminded, don't worry.
And then what we did is we added an appointed representative, which I believe Wendy said was Tony, correct? Now,
Tony is your regular.
and then we have an appointed alternate, which is going to be Tim. So we did that because some communities don't have the supervisor or mayor participating, but they have two other representatives. The IMA and the bylaws weren't matching up the language, so we matched it up, and it goes in rank order. So each community gets one vote when they vote for anything related to RACOG. So it goes by the highest ranking. So that's easy if the mayor or supervisor is there, they're the highest ranking. If you have two board of trustee members there, who would be the highest ranking at that point? So
Well, no, it's you because you're now the appointed representative. So if it was appointed representative, then the appointed alternate would be at the bottom of that for the voting, so.
We certainly also, I mean, you said Town of Wilna again, but we certainly would entertain meetings here, you know, if people wanted it, right, Mayor? I mean,
Sure.
Yep, and that has, I think.
we brought that up at the last meeting, I think, didn't we?
Yeah, Bob, I think, brought that up about maybe
Yeah.
moving the meetings around a little bit, so it wasn't so they could travel all the way to Lowville each time.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea,
Yeah.
from community to community.
Yep, sounds good.
We need to allow the village on the July, let me read this. The Village of Lowville Board of Trustees has removed the 1 hour and 2 hour parking restrictions after 2 p.m. on Tuesday, July 15th, 2025 for the Lewis County Fair, Lewis County Parade. Vehicles parked before 2 p.m. in these restricted spaces will be ticketed over the designated time limit. Parade spectators are also reminded that lawn chairs, tape, etc. cannot be used on village streets to reserve a parking space during the day. These items will be removed by the village personnel. Do we motion this each year, or is
No,
it?
we do not. I just put it on the website.
Okay,
No.
so we're all set.
Yep.
That flows good. So I'll take a motion to adjourn the regular meeting.
So move.
No.
Go into
Go into
executive-
executive.
go into
We're gonna do that
executive
after we
session.
adjourn this. Okay, Tim moved, Tony seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion to go into executive session for a personnel issue on a code and litigation. Thank you.
Second.
We can't get out of our car.
I think it's done.